Good afternoon and welcome to the November 16th Strategic Planning Committee meeting. I'm Carla Silvestri, School Board Member at Large. I'd like to start off with introductions, starting with President Evans.
Good afternoon, Shebra Evans, representing District 4, serving as the current board president. Thank you.
Ms. Dixon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jeanette Dixon, Member at Large of the Board of Education.
Dr. Johnson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Henry Johnson, Chief of Staff.
Dr. Stratman.
Oh, hi. I'm Karen Stratman. I'm incoming Chief of Staff. I'll be assuming that role upon Dr. Johnson's departure at the end of December.
Dr. Addison.
Keisha Addison, Director in the Office of Shared Accountability.
Mr. Cardenas.
Good afternoon, Juan Cardenas, Assistant to the Director in the Office of Shared Accountability.
Ms. Webb.
Lori Christina Webb, Chief of Staff to the Board.
Okay. Did I miss anyone? No. Okay, great. So if I could ask my colleagues for approval for today's agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
And we also have an informational summary from our October meeting. If I could, do you have any questions or comments, or can we move that forward?
Yep, move it forward.
Thank you. So today's meeting is designed around going deeper into our student achievement data. As you know, a lot of our meetings are devoted to taking what's presented at the board table and ask additional questions and going deeper into the data. So at our last board meeting, we received results of our MAP testing information. And today we're going to get a little bit more insight into what's happening with our 8th and 9th graders, that MAP 9th grade data. And so Dr. Johnson, I'll hand it over to you.
So thank you, Ms. Silvestre and other members of the board. One of the interests of not only Ms. Silvestre, but other members was to look at and to do a deeper dive of the assessment data for 9th graders. And I have Dr. Addison and Mr. Cardenas here with us today to help us better understand that data. But I think the first thing that we need to understand is that this is the first time that we've administered an assessment like this at the high school level, and Dr. Addison will talk about that. And so what you're seeing is our first attempt to determine whether or not the students are meeting their instructional and academic needs during this particular virtual environment and what we might need to do to support them in the future. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Addison. If we could pull up the PowerPoint presentation for her so that she can move forward, and we'll have an opportunity for board members to address her and ask questions. Dr. Addison.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Just waiting for the slides. Next slide, please. Next slide, we're going to talk about MAP data. All right, thank you. So at the October 27th board presentation, we presented a series of fall MAP data, trend data for grades 3 and 6. And then for 9th grade, we took a different approach, as Dr. Johnson shared, as we typically do not administer MAP for our 9th graders. And one of the requests from the board was to revisit the analyses in a different way. And so what you see here is the percent of current 9th grade students who met the 50th national percentile as 8th graders, and then again as 9th graders. And so one of the things that we continue to do for this approach is to look at the same set of students. And that's what we did and do for our October 27th presentation. So first you see overall for all students, you see at the winter administration of grade 8, 62% of students were meeting the 50th national percentile. And then looking at the fall administration of MAP, MAP-M, you see that it's 48% of students who are meeting the 50th national percentile. Next slide, please.
So Dr. Addison, before you go on, can we explain to those who may be viewing and for the rest of us who may or may not know what the MAP-M assessment is and what it measures?
Sure. So the MAP-M assessment is a measure of mathematics. It is an assessment that is curriculum agnostic, but it's aligned to Common Core state standards. And so we use it as a measure in our evidence of learning framework, as well as we're using it as our fall diagnostic for this year to potentially show the impact that COVID-19 interruption has had on our students. And so this is one of the reasons why we're looking at a winter, because we kind of ended the school year in March and students had taken the winter MAP. And now in the fall, where are these students performing? And so the lens with which we're showing aligns to how we showed it at our October 27th board presentation, where we showed the performance of all students and the content, then the focus groups, and then services.
So I just have another question. I'm sorry. So is that the winter of 2020 or is that the winter of 2019 versus the fall of 2020?
So we call it winter 2020, but it happened during the 2019-2020 school year.
Okay.
When our current ninth graders were in the eighth grade last.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem. And so on this slide, you see a similar approach in terms of looking at the performance in winter 2020 when students were eighth graders compared to fall 2020 when they are now ninth graders. And on the next slide, you see services. Next slide, please. Thank you. You see our services and you see the difference between performance in winter 2020 for mathematics compared to fall 2020. And now to transition to reading. Next slide, please. Again, a similar approach, starting with all students, looking at in the eighth grade, what percent of the students were at or above the 50th national percentile. You see it's 52%. And then for this fall, we see it as 39% for current ninth grade students. Next slide, please. For our focus group students, you see the differences across all groups. All groups experienced a decrease in the percent of students meeting the 50th percentile. Again, keep in mind that these are the same students. So in the winter of eighth grade, they were meeting, and now when you see in the fall of 2020, what percent are now meeting the 50th percentile in ninth grade. Next slide, please. And then our services view in terms of the percent meeting from winter of last year in eighth grade to now fall of ninth grade. Excuse me. And I'll pause here for any questions about the data, because these are all of the data slides we have right now for MAP.
Any questions from my colleagues?
No, it's not, I guess, unexpected, but, we really have taken a hit here, with student achievement. I think the big piece will be, going forward, what are some things we can do, to help our students.
And I do know that that is a conversation that is going to be coming to one of our upcoming board presentations, where we're going to talk about professional development for staff connected to these data.
Yeah. Nothing to add. Mine is similar to the comments of Ms. Dixon. So look forward to what we're going to bring to the board in the future about what we're doing to support our students.
So Dr. Addison, I do have a question, and that is, do we plan to administer this assessment later on at the end of the first semester or in the spring, so that we will be able to compare the fall to what might occur in the spring?
So this is currently an ongoing conversation in terms of the administration for the different seasons. We typically administer the MAP assessment in fall, winter, and spring for elementary and middle school levels. Again, this is our first year really having MAP as a focus in the high school level. And so we want to make sure that it is useful and valuable, which is another reason why we're going to be talking about the professional development. And so at this time, there is still thinking that we may continue. We do recognize that MAP allows us to look at growth for students and things like that. But we want to also make sure that some of the concerns that are being raised in the schools and from families around the MAP administration are addressed as well.
And so the other question that I have also is when we're looking at multiple measures, which we do in the evidence of learning, one of the things that we look at is classroom grades. And I know that Ms. Silvestri had an interest in introducing that to the picture, into the conversation this afternoon. And unfortunately, the teachers just finished inputting grades and report cards haven't gone out yet. And that's why the Office of Shared Accountability hasn't had an opportunity to disaggregate that data and pull that data together. But with that being said, is there usually a correlation between, now this is going to be really interesting because we haven't done MAP at the high school before, so it'll be interesting to see how the grades may correlate to the MAP assessment. But in the other grade levels, is there usually a relationship that we can see? For example, if the students are doing really well in the classroom, how likely are they to do on the assessment itself?
So that's actually one of the beauties of evidence of learning framework, because we want to see, are there commonalities across how a student is performing in their classroom, grades in the district assessments, and then on the external measure. And for some students, you do see that they look similar. They are performing at a high level across all three. But then in some, you see differences. And this is where it allows us to ask questions about, well, how is it possible that a student, for example, is performing at a high level on the MAP assessment, but their course grade might be a C or a D? And so these are things that allow us to kind of monitor and look at that, and then the questions and have conversations with school-based staff in terms of looking at the data for students. So ideally, yes, we do want to see that a student is performing well across all three measures in evidence of learning, but sometimes we do see differences.
Yeah. So Dr. Addison, do we have any of this data, by school? Can it be broken out by school to see how students are doing at the different schools?
So we have not run the data individually by school. However, it is put into Performance Matters. And so schools can look at it, directors can look at it by school. And there is a way to do that analysis by school, but we haven't done it yet. We've just been kind of looking overall at the district level. Yeah.
Well, I think it would really behoove us to be able to look by school, especially for the board, to see where, obviously, students are doing well and where, students need more support. I think that's an important piece. But I'll leave that to Ms. Silvestri to get all of that. She'll be here.
So after the last board meeting where this data was presented, there was a lot of chatter in the community about the high school performance. And so how do we communicate to the public that this is a more accurate representation of what's happening, would you say? Would you agree with that? Or
so if you, interestingly enough, the decreases that we saw from the former lens is actually similar to what we see here. There are about 20 percentage point decreases from winter to fall. However, to your point, there is interest in bringing this back to a larger board meeting, one that isn't kind of a special committee meeting where we can get this information out to the community as well.
Great. And then My question is about 8th grade math, 9th grade math. What's actually happening at those grade levels? Because the ideal is that they're taking algebra in 8th grade or 9th grade. So I guess, I mean, this is a conversation for, it's a conversation about how to address the learning loss, right? Since it's a high school requirement and we're seeing such decreases in performance, I'm just curious about how to make that up, given that you're going to move on to geometry if you pass, or algebra 2. But algebra being such a foundational course is just of concern, making sure that they master that so that they're successful in their future math classes.
And I would definitely, sorry. I was about to say, I would definitely need to defer to our curriculum experts in terms of kind of that connection. And I do think, and as we think about the future board meeting that's coming, where we're going to bring this information back and the conversation around professional learning for teachers and better connection to the curriculum, that question could be better answered there.
And at that future board meeting, will we also see the report card data?
Yes, I believe that is also on the agenda.
Yes, I think it is on the agenda. We were just talking about it at during our cabinet meeting on Friday, and it is on the next agenda. Maybe not whenever it's scheduled, it's on the report card data is on the agenda.
I think it's a December meeting.
Right. I think it's December 3rd, maybe.
Now, if I recall the MAP data for the earlier grades, there were some grade levels where there were actual gains from previous year. And so it's very, what's happening at 8th grade in terms of why such drastic decreases? Is it their organizational readiness to do online learning? Any thoughts about why the 8th to 9th grade drop is so drastic compared to other levels where we even saw gains for some of our target groups?
I guess, and it's really hard to speculate because we are in this different environment in terms of being impacted by COVID. Students are doing remote learning. I think that's one aspect that could be impacting it. Another thing I think we need to think about is grade 8 to 9, that's that transition year. So these students are also having to transition to kind of the demand, if you will, of high school. So that could be part of it as well. Again, I think we would have to dig a little more to figure out what are the nuances and differences that might be happening that might reflect kind of what we're seeing for this data, these data.
I don't think it would necessarily have a huge impact, but I think one of the impacts that this data show is that one, the students, even though they were 8th graders and they were accustomed to this assessment, it's a very different mindset when you get to high school and you transition to high school. The other thing is the teachers were not prepared for this assessment because they've never given this type of assessment or have had to give this type of assessment in the past. So I think one of the things is just the fact that this was a brand new assessment that was introduced to high school, and historically that it had not been an assessment, or this type of comprehensive assessment has not been given to high school students in the past. I think that had a real impact on their ability to be able to perform. It's one thing if you're taking it 3 times a year in 8th grade, and it's, as Dr. Addison said, while it's content agnostic, meaning particularly in math, it's not geared towards algebra or geometry, algebra 2 or whatever, but still doing a high school assessment like this for the first time when you've been accustomed to doing it in middle school and elementary school can be a little bit challenging, along with making that transition. You know, we know, Ms. Dixon knows this, I know this, those of us have been former high school principals. We know that 9th grade year is a real transition year for students, and they face a lot of different issues that they probably didn't face in middle school or didn't face in elementary school that makes it a little bit more challenging for them. But I would say that it's probably the first administration. And that was the reason why I asked the question, do we plan to administer this assessment in the spring to see how the students would do from the fall to the spring to see if it has anything to do with that or not. That's just my 2 cents.
Right. Yeah, I think, Henry, administering it again would give an opportunity to benchmark to see how students did. I also wonder, just in terms of the timing, done at the beginning, really pretty much of the school year. Usually for these assessments, I would imagine that teachers are able to do some preparation, of students to get them ready, to do the assessment. And I'm not sure, just about the timing of all of that, whether they were able to do that in the fall, as they might have wished. But but it would be interesting, I think, to hear from the teachers, what they would, attribute the decline to. But I just think, once again, we have to realize the reality of COVID-19. It's just not an ideal learning situation, although some students do very well with it, and are able to be very focused on their own. But I'm not sure that I would angst so much about it, because I think that, we'll make improvements.
Thank you. I think we can move on.
So I think, Dr. Addison, this concludes your presentation of the data, correct?
Yes, it does.
And no more data slides. Are there any additional questions that you all have of Dr. Addison and Mr. Cardenas before we move on to our next topic?
No, just thank you for the work on this.
And I would just emphasize to our public what you stated already is, as parents get report cards next week, and I think MAP data will also be in parent view, just to take that multiple measures perspective. So maybe this didn't go as well, but the grades are good, and let's kind of wait and see what the next set of report card grades show. But I, as a parent, people always want to have that information so they can advocate for their students and support them if they need help.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Addison. Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. And
Thank you.
Follow up. I know Ms. Van Dyke is taking copious notes for us, and we'll follow up with the requests that have been made for us to disaggregate the data by school level. Ms. Dixon, we'll follow up on that.
Right. Yeah. I think that's an important piece, to be able to benchmark across schools and see how students are doing.
Right. And it's good information for the directors to have. I mean, I know they can look at it in individual school levels. I know they can do that, but it would be nice for them to get the whole view of the school system and not just the schools that they're directly responsible for.
Right.
Thank you, Dr. Addison. Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. We appreciate your time. So if we can continue with the PowerPoint presentation. So this is, Ms. Silvestre, this is the timeline that we've come up with for the development of our new strategic plan, FY 2022 to 25. I'm sure you have some comments that you want to make about that process.
Yeah, I wanted to have a discussion with my colleagues in terms of getting ready to have a plan come next school year. And you all may have been a part of the current plans process 4 years ago or so. So just wanted to get your feedback on launching a process that would start to be determined when, involving various sectors of our community. I know some of us wanted, of course, our parents, our students, but also our higher education partners, as well as our business community in that process. And so I did over the weekend think a little bit more about the timeline. And wanted to see if maybe right now there's a lot going on and we might consider pushing it off a couple months. I don't think that there's anything that governs but what time we have to have the plan in place by. And I know that our community wants to participate. So I just wondered if over the weekend, just thought maybe this was a little bit too soon, given that parents are going up against the holidays and making that very important decision about in person or online when the metrics are right. So I'll just open it up to my colleagues to see if they're in agreement that we might start this off a little bit later than what we had originally proposed.
So this is Shebra. I think that we should push it off a little bit. We want to be intentional and make sure we're able to really get some great stakeholders on this work group. And December 2020 just seems like it's tomorrow. And like you said, we put out we put out our survey to our parents, and the holidays and the winter break is coming up. I just think it would be a lot to try to get people together this quickly. So if we could just hold off a little bit. I'm trying to think, I don't have a date per se in my head, but when I think about possibly trying, like we're going to hear tomorrow at a work session about more on the plans to return to in-person learning, doing our phased in process. And so I don't know if we try to wait until February.
So can I make a suggestion,
Ms.
Evans, Ms. Silvestre, Ms. Dixon? So I know that the board is planning a retreat when we have the new full board coming in January, and there's a retreat, and that would be an opportunity for the full board to discuss a number of things, including this one. And so once you all come out of that meeting, then that can precipitate the work on the part of administration to then move forward with seating the group and we can continue with our interest form and so forth and getting members and that sort of thing. The actual work itself and the first meeting itself, as you suggested, Ms. Evans, wouldn't take place until after your retreat, which means probably wouldn't take place until February. And then we would be ready, if we follow the remaining parts of that timeline by extending it, it means that the board would probably not be able to approve the new strategic plan until the beginning of 2022 and not the middle of 2021 as proposed in that previous timeline. I don't know what your thoughts are around that.
Yeah. Well, I was actually going to suggest the same thing, Dr. Johnson. I think it would give Ms. Harris a chance to, become involved. I don't know, what committee she will wind up on, but I would imagine, this may be a possibility. And so, I think, Carla, your suggestion of, putting it off and, Shebra's in agreement. I think that's the way to go to get her involved. What I do think would be interesting, Carla, is if you shared with the community your view about getting different stakeholders involved, because I think that that's a great idea. I'm kind of one of these people that think that if you always do what you always did, you'll always get, what you got. And so I think, having a different approach would certainly, is a good idea. Did you want to say anything about that? I'm fine with what you want to do with that, or whether you want to bring it up at the retreat or, have the full board, sign off on it, although I don't think, you have to necessarily do that because as the chair of the committee, you're the leader. So, I think it would behoove us to try what you would like, Yeah,
I think as the school system being such an integral part of our community, it's important to me that we have a wide range of perspectives in terms of the direction that we want to go in the future. And so that's my intent as we meet with the board in January, is to figure out how to have that wide perspective as we chart the course for the next 3 years. So we can discuss it further there. What do I want to say about that? No, that's it.
Okay, great.
I think one of the things, I think you've already mentioned, Ms. Silvestre, that you all would like to have members from the business community, members from higher education, maybe even members from government. But I think you just need to provide our office or administration with the various groups that you would like to have represented. And then we can, either through the interest form that you have people fill out, we can identify folks from those various segments, or we can help find people in those various segments who have served before, or the organizations have served before, and they could send a new representative. So there are all kinds of ways that we can do this. But I agree with Ms. Dixon on the fact that it would be nice to have a diverse, and I'm not talking about racially and ethnically, although we want that as well, but it would be nice to have diverse voices around the room who can see themselves in the work that we're asking the school district to do over the next 3 years. And so, you may want to go to your colleagues and say, we've come up with these various folks, but can you think of anybody else that we need to add who might represent a various group that we haven't asked to do anything like this in the past? I think that would be really helpful. And I think it would be really dynamic as we begin to develop this new plan.
And I know we've never done it virtually before, but I'm assuming that the community engagement process will be via Zoom. Is that correct? And do we have any concerns about that?
It would be virtual for now until we get back into school. So, but there would be no concerns from our standpoint on being able to do that.
Okay. Great. Yeah, my goal is, like I said, to have the community engaged in the process, our leaders, our stakeholders, parents and students, of course, but the folks that are in it with us to make this school system ever so successful. So I'm sure that we can reach out to those folks over the winter time and make sure we have a good, solid group for this process. So thank you. Anything else we need to discuss?
Right, that was the last topic from our standpoint. I don't know if there are other topics that members of the committee want to discuss.
No, we had, when we planned this meeting, we thought we would have the report card data to talk about as well, and that's why it feels a little bit short. But I don't think there is anything else from my end.
Okay. I don't have anything either. It's been great. Wish you guys good luck in the future with this. I know you'll come up with a good plan.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon, for being a part of our strategic planning committee.
And for bringing up third grade reading for the first time during this committee meeting, Ms. Dixon.
Thank you.
And we're going to remember that. If we don't remember anything else that you have been championing, we will definitely third grade
Don't
reading.
worry, I won't let you all forget. And
I know you.
I will check next year as well. I'll be watching you all. I won't be getting in your business so much as I used to, but I will continue to be involved. And certainly, if there's anything that I can do, just call on me. I'm happy to do it. So
Thank you.
great.
Absolutely.
Well, with that, then that concludes our November 16th Strategic Planning Committee meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.